Russian police detain hundreds of protesters against Ukraine invasion. News police officers detain a demonstrator during a protest against Russia's attack on Ukraine in St. Petersburg, Russia, Thursday. Similar protests took place in other Russian cities, and activists were also arrested. With files from Briar Stewart and Karin Semenov in Rostov-on-Don, Russian police detained at least 389 people at anti-war protests that took place in 39 Russian cities in the wake of Thursday's early morning attack on Ukraine, the OVD Info protest monitor said. The OVD Info monitor has documented crackdowns on Russia's opposition for years. Moscow-based opposition activist, Marina Litvinovich, was one of the people detained after she called for anti-war protests in the country. I was detained on my way out of the house, Litvinovich wrote on Telegram. She confirmed her detention separately in a message to Reuters. Police officers detain a demonstrator holding a sign reading "No War" during a protest against the invasion of Ukraine in Moscow. Hundreds of people gathered in the center of the city to protest against Russia's attack on Ukraine. Denis Kamenev. President Vladimir Putin said on Thursday he had no other option but to order what he has called a special operation against Ukraine, saying all of Moscow's previous attempts to change the security situation had come to nothing. Updated Ukraine won't give up its freedom in face of Russian invasion on three fronts. President says, some Ukrainians panic, others cling to routine as Russia attacks. Protests against the invasion also took place in cities around the world, including in the US, Canada, Germany, Italy, Turkey, Greece, Israel and elsewhere. Ukrainians who live in Rome protest near the Russian embassy. Protests against the invasion were seen around the world Thursday. People protest against Russia and Russian President Putin in front of the Chancellery in Berlin. Marcus Schreiber. In Rostov-on-Don, some tell they support Putin's move in Rostov-on-Don, about 120 kilometers from Russia's border with Ukraine. Some residents said they were supportive of Putin's decision to invade while others were hesitant to weigh in at all. The city of more than 1 million people is one of the staging grounds where Russian troops amassed in lead up to Thursday's attack and is one of the areas to which civilians from Donetsk, one of the two breakaway regions in eastern Ukraine, were evacuated ahead of the invasion. A war between Ukrainian forces and Russia-backed separatists in Donetsk and Luhansk, the other separatist-controlled region, has been going on since 2014 and has claimed around 14,000 lives, according to Ukrainian government estimates. The Donbas region in eastern Ukraine is currently split into territory controlled by the government, in yellow, and that held by Russia-supported separatists, in orange. The opposing sides have been fighting since 2014. Rostov-on-Don resident Natalia Mikovich, 56, sees the invasion as necessary in order to get control of that ongoing conflict. Our people have been suffering there for 8 years, she said. We have many relatives there. Imagine, children who are 8 years old now were born under the bombing and went to school under the bombing. Such a situation should have ended long ago. I am very sorry for the people and the fact that a lot of time has been lost and the infrastructure has been destroyed. She said she and her friends and acquaintances support Putin's decision. Look how diplomatically he does everything, she said of Putin. He explains everything in detail. Have you ever seen an American president explain something to someone before bombing someone? But he explained everything, even to the Ukrainian side. He said that in no case is he going to bomb civilians. A young couple from Donetsk, the territory controlled by a pro-Russia separatist government in eastern Ukraine, fill in documents after evacuating to the Rostov-on-Don region, near the border with Ukraine Sunday, ahead of the invasion. Mikovich said Russians have no enmity toward Ukrainians. Ukrainians do not need to be afraid of Russia, she said. We used to live together. We were like brothers and sisters, and we were torn apart from each other. Capitalist countries have divided us and are rejoicing. But we are the closest people. Belarus, Ukraine, we have a lot of relatives both there and here. My soul aches for everyone. Another resident of Rostov-on-Don didn't want to talk about the invasion when approached by a crew Thursday. I don't have time to think about this situation. I'm working, said 36-year-old Roman, who did not want to give his last name. I have no opinion on this. The people in power will sort it out. Russian armored vehicles are loaded onto railway platforms at a railway station in the Rostov-on-Don region Wednesday. He said he talked to family members in Ukraine Thursday and that while they were shocked that the bombing had started, they're all right. I have relatives in Ukraine, we treat them normally, and they treat us normally, he said of relations between the two countries. Everything that happens is politics. Ordinary people, friends, relatives do not experience any aggression towards each other. The attitude of Ukrainians to Russians will not change. Watch correspondents report from two sides on the ground in Ukraine and Russia as the Russian invasion of Ukraine begins. Margaret Evans reports from the streets of Kyiv. while Briar Stewart details the situation in Russia from Rostov-on-Don, 9/17. Putin seeks to calm business fears in Russia. Putin tried to reassure the business community in the face of broad, punishing sanctions announced by the G7 countries. In a televised meeting with business leaders, Putin told Alexander Shokhin, the head of the Russian Union of Industrialists and Entrepreneurs, that Moscow had been forced into taking action and knew that sanctions would follow. Trudeau announces sanctions on Russia as Moscow ramps up pressure on Ukraine. Updated Biden unveils sanctions, says Russia will bear the consequences of Ukraine attack. We all understand the world we live in and were prepared in one way or another for what is now happening from the point of view of sanctions policy, Putin said. Russia remains a part of the global economy. Muscovites go about their business in wake of Ukraine invasion hours after their country invaded Ukraine Thursday. Some people in the Russian capital, Moscow, were going about their day in seemingly normal fashion. Shokhin said Russia should stimulate extra demand for government debt from private investors, given new Western sanctions on Russian state bonds, warning new sanctions would be tougher than previous ones and may disrupt logistics and supply chains. Baltic countries worry they could be Russia's next target. He also urged Western nations not to apply sanctions on climate projects. I want to thank you for what has been done so far in rather difficult conditions, Putin Shokhin.